physically. Go ahead.
Welcome back. With us right now from the El Toro Water District is Director Fred Ajarian, and it's good to see you as always, Fred.
Good to see you too, as always, Ken. How are you?
And what we're talking about today, you brought along this this booklet, a report really, about the Oroville incident. And we're talking about the spillway, and a lot of people might remember that. We're going to bring you up some slides.
Yes.
And you know, there's a lot of reasons that this came about. I'm going to let you elaborate on it. And
happy
this
to.
is really a very good report here.
Just a quick snapshot for customers. Oroville Dam, the reason this project is so important, Ken, is because it is the starting point for the California State Water Project. State Water Project is 444 miles long. It's that big aqueduct that we see when we go up Highway 5 from Los Angeles to Northern California. Then it stops up in an area just south of the Delta, the Clifton Court Forebay, and then from there, right now the water meanders through the Delta and comes down from Sacramento and the San Joaquin Rivers. Oroville is way up here, and then Shasta Dam is up here, and we're at the north end of the state at this point. So the reservoir was built in 1968. It was the centerpiece of the State Water Project under Governor Pat Brown Sr., Governor Brown's father, his legacy. This project serves 25 million Californians, which I believe we get 30% of that water here for just Southern California. So it's a critical component of our economy. California has a $2 trillion economy, $1 trillion in the south, $1 trillion in the north. And it also provides water for 750,000 acres of farmland in the Central Valley. And so it's an incredibly important project. And when this incident happened because of all the abundance of rain, oh my gosh, it was something.
Yeah, let's, we're going to look at the first, this slide here. Here's what I wanted to have you explain to people.
Sure.
Because a lot of times people, you know, they hear this when this first came about, the dam broke. You know, that was, Oroville Dam broke, you know, we're going to lose our water, people down Oroville. Explain what a spillway does. What's the purpose of it, especially when it relates to here?
So the spillway over here, if I can point to it, this is the main spillway. Here's the dam, Oroville Dam itself, the power plant, Thermalito power plant, the main spillway, and then there's an emergency spillway here. Purpose of a spillway is to relieve water pressure when the water gets to a point, or water elevation, when it gets to a certain preset elevation that's considered safe for the dam to maintain. In this case, it's 901 feet. So anything over that, and that's water coming in from melting snowpack up in the greater Sierra Nevadas, then it starts to spill through here. Then it's supposed to come down this long chute here, which is about 3,000 foot in length, and then go into the Feather River. Before this dam was built in '68, this was at one time known as the Feather River. So many of our customers who remember something called the Feather River Project in the late 50s, early 60s. This is the Feather River now with the dam in front of it.
Okay, and of course the Feather River goes through parts of the state and on.
It goes all the way down and then feeds into the Sacramento River, which feeds into the Delta. And then from that, part of it goes to San Francisco Bay, part of it comes south, and then we get some of that water in Southern California. So
okay, so what we really want to emphasize here, that the dam did not fail, but the safety valve, so to speak, the way the water comes out, failed towards really towards like 2/3 down.
Yes, exactly. The dam was never in danger. That's an excellent point, and I want customers to be aware of that. Projects in the water industry are always designed to the max. So there was never an issue here. It was the fact that the spillway had some issues because of the type of rock that it was built upon. And also there were inconsistencies in the thicknesses of the concrete spillway, which at the time were not foreseen. Also, what contributed to the problem, as you'll see in later slides, was some of the just maintenance, age.
Yeah.
Like myself, I'm getting older and I'm not looking any better. So the reservoir here was showing its age.
Exactly. And in the next slide, Lake Oroville operations, it just shows, you know, kind of a timeline here.
Yes.
And, you know, we need to emphasize that just a year and a half ago or whatever, you had a picture of Lake Oroville that it looked like you could drive across it.
Exactly. It was almost empty.
Yeah.
We were at the beginning of a 5th year of drought in California. Right. This reservoir, which our largest state reservoir, which holds over 3.5 million acre-feet of water, with 1 acre-foot being 326,000 gallons. It's about the amount of water that a family of 2 needs in 1 year's time. Yeah, it was empty and it was barren. I mean, I'm surprised we didn't have motocross people going up and down the hills trying to have fun. But this timeline shows at critical points where the issue first began. It's February 7th. This is when the initial erosion of the spillway occurred. The blue line here is the water coming into the reservoir from the snowmelt, the rainfall at this stage. As you move along, February 8th, February 9th, this is the inflow kind of starting to, it's dipping a little bit, but now the elevation of the reservoir is starting to rise. When it crested at this point, and exceeded 901, then that's when it topped and spilled into the emergency spillway, and there's photographs of that. And then as as this leveled off, then more water was released by the state engineers to ensure that there would not be a public safety issue. And one thing that got a lot of press was the fact that almost 200,000 people were evacuated from the city of Oroville.
Right.
It was a nightmare listening to the director of the Department of Water Resources talk about an incredible coordination event, something akin to the World Trade Center emergency.
Right.
Just a real nightmare.
So on the next slide, we are going to see as this happened.
Right.
And we're seeing the spillway here.
This is the initial erosion occurring February 7th. Water's coming down, and because of some imperfections, age, the water started to scoop out and caused a crater here. And as that caused a crater then to occur, it started to fracture here at a certain point. And at the same time, water was overtopping the side of the spillway and started to carve out the side here. And we'll see it in the next slide.
Yeah, the next slide, we're really going to see
you can really
impact
see
here.
Here we go.
I mean, that's an incredible photo. Now, let's emphasize that to the right, that's not a spillway that should be there. In other words, down here.
Right. This is just because there was so much water, over 100,000 acre-feet that had to be released. That water just was, and with the crater that was being created here, it basically broke the side of the spillway and then cut its own path down to the Feather River. Here you can see the emergency spillway way up here. That's like the backup to this if this were to ever fail.
So the emergency spillway, if it tops over there, it looks as though that just kind of filters down into the forest area there.
It did. It does, and it did. And this was a topic of concern when the dam facility was up for relicensing by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission a number of years ago, probably about 10 years ago or so. Some local groups said, hey, why hasn't there been anything done to improve that emergency spillway just in case?
Right.
Well, just in case became reality on February 7th because of the extraordinary amounts of rainfall that occurred, the atmospheric rivers that we've talked about before that pounded Northern California, 2 in particular. And the volume of water was something we had never seen in many, many, many years. 2017 has just been an extraordinary year, Ken.
Yeah.
So,
now on the next slide, we're going to see what the erosion here.
The crater.
And in reality, this photo here, we're going to see a next photo that's even more so. This was probably when we had kind of a respite for some rain, right? And then, but it started to decay even more.
It was in between because the rain would come in waves. So the reservoir.
And here we go. Look at the difference.
Here we go. They were doing slow, measured releases. This was after the 100,000 acre foot release. It just basically ripped up that initial gouge, carving down the slope here. The rest coming down the slope through these dragon's teeth, that's what they call them here. And if there's another slide that I think will show.
Yeah, the slide right after this.
At the bottom, you'll see an incredible, well, here we go. This is an excellent rendition.
Here's the emergency spillway.
Here it is.
Going.
This is about February 12th, February 13th. Now we're about a week into this emergency. And mind you, there are thousands and thousands of local, state, and federal agencies involved, law enforcement. People have been evacuated from the town of Oroville, and this was getting daily news coverage. Emergency spillway running here, and the regular spillway, the main spillway, and the emergency spillway here. And you can see how water has such a tremendous erosive force. It was, I think they're still trying to figure out how much was flowing. Here, they were running about 125,000 cubic foot per second. That's, my goodness, I can't do the math fast enough. I'll have to send you the numbers, but it's a lot of numbers, Ken.
Yeah, and the next slide, we're going to see.
Here we go.
Here it is, yes.
This is after the storm. It's quiet. And so now
amazing.
You see how much damage was done. This is taken, I think, in late April. You see, as a scale of magnitude, you see here, that's a person right there. And these are core drills that are drilling into the bottom of the spillway, trying to determine if it is still structurally sound. And so going forward, what's going to happen now, the state let a contract with a competitive basis, awarded in June a $300 million, $275 million contract to Kiewit Pacific to fix this main spillway, fix the emergency spillway by November 1. The rest of the work to complete everything will take 2 years. It will not be done completely.
Okay, when you say the rest of the work, explain fixing it, does that mean by November 1st this is going to look like new?
This will be functional.
Functional.
Functional,
okay.
I don't know about new, but it'll be functional according to the state.
Okay.
The emergency spillway will be reconfigured, graded. I don't know if it's going to be also covered with concrete or not, but the goal is by November 1st to have at least this spillway, the main spillway and the emergency spillway ready and operational, so that should we experience another season comparable to what we had this past January, February, March, we're ready. The rest of the work is basically the work that goes into finalizing this main spillway and the emergency spillway for the long term, plus cleaning up all the debris over nearly 2 million cubic yards, 2 million cubic yards of rock and aggregate that was washed, scoured, gouged into the river here. And in fact, curious irony, much of that aggregate will be used to help rebuild the base for this. So nothing will go to waste, but it is going to be expensive.
Yeah.
And to put this in perspective, this project, the entire project originally was constructed for $120 million. The fix just for the spillway and the emergency spillway will be almost $300 million.
Wow. Of course, that was 1968 money, so
correct.
That alone would have tripled by now.
Exactly.
You know.
Plus, there'll be a couple of other $100 million for all the law enforcement time and for the evacuation expenses. So
incredible.
It's I know it's a lot of information, but this was the #1 story for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Exactly. So, I appreciate this. This is fantastic. Great photos.
Thank you very much.
Took those.
Look forward to providing an update to our customers and hopefully showing some significant progress.
All right. Thank you. Always good to see you,
Ken. Likewise. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
We'll be right back.
Sorry.